Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Levi, these are all members of board members are present. I would see approval of the agenda.
I move we approve the agenda.
Moved and second to approve the agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion passes. Comments from the president, I have none. Comments from superintendent.
I'll just say, Tim back there, that grounds are looking good, especially the football stadium. Going to look great or the other night. We predicted to look great again this Friday night. So kudos to your crew there.
Consent agenda.
I move we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Moved and second to accept the consent agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion passes. Comments from the public. Levi Library.
There are none.
Report to 25-26 district.
Levi, you want to talk about that first resolution?
Yeah, so part of this is just statutory. We have to adopt a resolution to establish the LOB percentage, which I think Resolution 2608 is in there that establishes the LOB percentage at 31% for the 25-26 school year. So we just need a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 2608.
So move.
Second. Moved and second to adopt resolution 2608. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion passed 7-0.
So is that something you gotta do
No matter what it is.
Yeah, it's gotta be a separate deal.
Correct.
So yeah, piggybacking on what Brooke just mentioned, I think as a school board member, we have to find that balance of what our patrons are asking us to do and what we need for the school. And we had several people show up for public comment before. They're all in favor of not raising taxes. So I think we need to take into consideration what our people in the public are asking us to do. I think Lonnie and Levi and crew did a good job of presenting us with a couple different budget options. I think the ease the burden on the public, I think, and would be doing them a disservice to choose the higher of the two, just because we can. I think everybody that spoke about their taxes have been raised considerably in the last 7 to 10 years, and I think easing that burden would certainly help out some people.
I think that either way, we raise the mill levy. Either one of those proposals we do. One, we just do it a little slower than the other. We know that it's, to Lonnie's point, it's not, the trend's not going away. Next year, I mean, the ag land things on an 8-year rolling average is still going to go down next year, and houses are still going to go up. We know purchase prices. So all we're doing is reining in the increase a little bit and approaching it a little bit slower. You know, right now, as it stands, we're looking at over 25% increase on average in the last 2 years alone. What are we going to do next year? If the only consideration that we take is in absolute terms what's best for the school, then we're going to pass on whatever the increase is next year. So, you know, I don't think that we're going to be forced with any real tough choices. We may have to tighten the belt here and there just a little bit. I would like to see consensus from the board, something that we can all vote for. I think that would be great. I would like to give some considerations to what we've heard and what really just the general word on the street, and try to be a little bit fairer to our patrons. I think that the 10% that we would get with a flat mill levy is too high, but I would be willing to compromise to that middle ground, the 49.343. If nothing else, just to see that the impact to our patrons is important to the board.
And
It's not,
well, I think,
the other thing to think about is if we choose the higher number and then next year we try and roll out to pass a bond, I mean, how many times are we going to tap the public to just give us more and more and more?
well, and they have a choice in that matter.
Well,
They have to vote and approve
that's
it.
true, but if we're wanting to pass it,
Well, I think that's what I'm trying to say as well. Kirk, what were you going to say?
well, I guess just because I'm in favor of going to 6 doesn't mean that I am not considering the taxpayers' point of view, because I am. I understand that fully. The way I guess I look at it is going to 6 gets us back to where we are or have been historically. And if what was done 2 years ago, we dropped it down, I think that was at the time, I think that was a good move, and that was a good move for the board to do that, to show the taxpayers that, you know, we are thinking about you guys, and that's great. But when I went back and looked at that, it seemed like it was basically noted that this isn't sustainable to do that, or to keep it at that level, knowing that, hey, we're gonna have to get back to that 6 at some point. So from my standpoint is like, if you're looking at the two different options, we're like splitting hairs as to being at, you know, the 5 point whatever to 6.
Then it
I don't
wouldn't be a
I
big
don't-
deal to not go all the way this year and work our way back towards it, right? If it's splitting hairs.
Well, you can look at that two different ways.
Right.
You can look at my viewpoint of it is, Ian, it's like, let's get back to the 6 where we've been historically. And then that way next year, hopefully we don't have this debate.
Because we'll raise the taxes by whatever the valuation is increasing without having to say we raised the mill rate, because it amounts to the same thing. It's just that, oh, look, we kept the mill levy the same, we're not raising taxes, where it'll just go with whatever the valuation is. So it's kind of, I mean, it doesn't really much matter ultimately what it is. It's how much increase do you want to pass on from one year to the next. The only thing it does by slowing it down a little bit, and it is not that much, but it would be nice to say that we're going to take into account the impact that it's having on all these people and not get it there in the short term. I mean, it was agreed upon that it wasn't sustainable to keep it that low forever with the way it was trending. But that doesn't mean, we tried to take it back. The proposed last year was to go right to 6. And we had a split board vote about that. We didn't do it, and it softened the impact a little bit. We can do it in another stepwise and soften the impact yet again. And that at least, I think that at least gives, it's not much. It's not much. But that shows that we are trying to balance that, to use Mitch's term, to balance that as best that we can. And next year, the increase will be, I mean, if it's the same amount of increase from year to year, it'll just be that much more stepwise to do it that way. So.
Well, yeah, and that's, I'm just trying to avoid a debate next year because I know that that's going to be the same debate
But
next year.
we should need to debate when we, I mean, like you
No,
said,
I-
it's good
no,
to
I-
have these conversations. You said it yourself.
No, I agree. I think it's healthy to talk through these things.
We're below the state average on LOB, so next year it's gonna have to go up. We robbed Peter to pay Paul to keep it at 31%.
So
To the tune of the 50 grand, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't do that every year in business.
No, you can't. But there's also that we've not considered, this would be to maintain everything the same. I mean, we haven't even talked about, if we can potentially tighten our belts anywhere, just like this, they had mentioned.
We haven't talked about expenses increasing either.
Well, okay, we can do that, and then we need to do the Hiawatha family as well. So it cuts the same. We already know that we're probably going to raise the LOB next year, right? So we already know that we're going
See
to
a way around it.
pass that on then, right? So we've already set ourselves up. We know what's coming down the pike. So why would we not try to mitigate it and give some consideration to these folks? Just that little bit. Just that little bit. It would be awesome to see some consensus that we aren't going back to the whole thing when we don't have to.
But if we know we're going to have to increase the LOB next year, then why would you want to have to?
That's
increase
coming
the-
either way. That's coming with his proposed 6 or not.
So I guess I guess to me then it's like, well, if you keep it lowered this year, then you're going to have to raise both next year.
Well, I don't know that I mean, you have to
You
look
wouldn't
at that
have,
holistic.
sorry, you wouldn't
Right.
have to,
Right.
but I'm just saying, like, if we're going in the trend we're going, if the goal is to get back to that historic value of the 6 for capital outlay, well, then you're gonna hit them on both sides of it.
Well, first of all, I think that arbitrary number of 6 because it's historical is meaningless anyway. That's what it was, and so that's what it needs to be. I mean, what we want to look is what that amounts to in money coming in. And so if you can hit a 3% increase every year or whatever number that you want, and you don't have to get there, then to hell with the 6. It's what it means in actual dollars and cents that matters. Just because that was the number, we will get there eventually. There's no doubt. But saying, well, we were short of the 6, and then the way, of course, it was in the budget presentation is that it's all this money that we didn't get, it almost looked like a cut, but it was really money that we left on the table, if you will. But ultimately, if you look at the new money coming in from year to year, and it is a sustainable amount, then it doesn't matter what that mill levy is, because you've hit your budget goals anyway. I don't know. I mean, like I said, we're 25%, even in the year that we were, quote, revenue neutral, we were for the district. We weren't for those taxpayers. And,
But are we ever going to be? I mean, that's the sad reality
No,
of
because
it.
of general fund.
right. Yeah. Right.
That's
Right.
41% of your budget.
But,
Right.
but, like Richard Schilling said, and it was a good point, we're squeezing too much blood out, and we're making it to where it's difficult because it's a function of how things work now, our work right now with the valuation changes. But the bottom line is valuation has gone up 70% in the last 5 years. We have personally raised taxes over 20%, 25% if we go with the full 6 here in the last 2 years. And we know what we're gonna more than likely do next year. So at what point?
Well, we raised it because we lowered it 2 years ago.
But we raised the mill levy. I'm talking about taxes.
Well, a lot of that is based off of assessments, and we don't have anything to do with the assessments.
No, but we do have to do with the mill levy. It's A times B.
But that's what I'm saying, though, because we lowered it 2 years ago.
Mhm.
It's not like we're asking for 8. We're just
Which we've never done, by the way.
No, and I'm not saying we should.
Mhm.
I'm just saying that we're just getting back to kind of where historically we have been. Not necessarily. We're not trying to gouge taxpayers. I believe. I feel like we have to get to the 6 because of what we have lost out on the last 2 years knowing what inflation, what things have done. I mean, look at what we spent out of capital outlay last year. And could we tighten that belt? Absolutely, we could tighten that belt. And we're going to have to, no matter whether it's at the 5.7 or 6. Yeah, we're going to have to do that. And I'm a huge proponent of that. But that's my point, is because of where we went 2 years ago, it looks, and I knew that was going to happen, because when you lower that, you're going to look bad. You're doing a short-term fix for a long-term problem. And so you had that short-term gain, and now we've got some long-term pain.
But see, that's not correct. It wasn't a short-term gain. It was less of a hit, less of a hit than it would have been anyway. So people still, 2 years ago, the homeowners still
it was a gain, because we lowered it.
No, we didn't lower it. We lowered our mill levy, but because of that.
But if you would have left it at 6, it would have been even higher.
Right.
So it had an impact.
Right. It wasn't lower. It was less of an increase.
Sorry, less of an impact. But it was still
an increase.
It was still an increase on the bottom line for the taxpayer.
Right.
But I'm talking about for the district.
Right.
We lowered that, and it was basically like shooting ourselves in the foot, because you knew you were going to have people upset when you had to get back up, because you knew that's not sustainable. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that was a wrong move by any means. I'm not saying that at all. It's just that now we're here faced with trying to get this budget back in line, and seeing that we've got facilities that, as I look, again, I try to look forward. I try not to look at tomorrow. I try to look at 5 years down the road. And to your point a little bit ago about a bond, will a bond pass? I have no idea. Mm-hmm. Right now, if you were to tell me, I'd say it can be pretty hard.
It will be when you've increased taxes by 50% in 5 years or 4 years.
But you're going to have to do that if you're not going to have a bond passed. If you're going to have to keep facilities to where they need to be, and unfortunately, we don't have facilities right now where they need to be. Well, my wife sits in a room that freezes her butt off because the air conditioning system is jacked up in the elementary school. And so you want to say, hey, let's recruit the best teachers we can to come into a building that they are miserable. That's not a good position to be in. And the last thing I want to do, and I think this is kind of where I come back to, is when I did the bond in, what was that, 15? And I was part of that bond committee or whatever. And the more I sat on that thing, basically we passed that bond, we're successful with it, which was great. And the taxpayers saw the need, and that was fantastic. The worst part about that was that didn't even get us caught up. We were so far behind when that bond passed. As a district with facilities, that didn't even get us to where we needed to be. That was like, and so I'm like, what? And I'm not faulting anybody. I'm just saying, like, what transpired in the years before that we were so far out of whack that our district had to take out a bond, pass a bond, and I mean, I'm no different than anybody else. If you spend money on something, you want to see something shiny and you want to see something from it. I don't think probably anybody saw.
No, we did needs instead of wants, that's for sure.
Absolutely. And so that's what was scary about it from my perspective. And I think that kind of tainted my viewpoint on a lot of this, because, and that's part of the reason I ran for school board, because I that kind of left an impact on me. Was like, man, we were successful, but were we really successful? Like, because we were spending a lot of money just to get caught up.
And what would have been as successful in your mind in the shiny?
Well, looking back on it, we probably should have built an elementary school at that point, because I think we would have been a lot farther ahead as a district.
Then
But do I think, Ian, that
that's a
would
different
happen?
conversation.
Yeah, it is. But do I think that would have passed? Probably not. So I guess that's just where I'm at, Ian. That's where I'm at in the whole, like, I don't want to see, I see what we spent last year out of capital outlay. I see where we're at in capital outlay. Basically, we've got a year's worth of spending in that right now. And as a district our size, to me, that's kind of scary from all the things that we have on our plate, because we know that if nothing else happens, that HVAC that we have been kicking the can down the road.
That would have the bond to fix, right?
Yeah, the one, unfortunately, that's why my viewpoint on this is probably different, because I was part of that, and now we're basically right back at that point where that money we spent, we're now replacing those items and
Which
having
will
problems.
be good because it'll correspond with the new bond, the timing of the new bond. So it did about what it needed to do then. I mean, we've had
That's
problems that we wanted to.
That's
but-
considering if the bond passes.
Mhm.
And I hope it does, because I hope people see value in that, but I don't know. We don't even know what that would even look like, but that's just that's where I come from. So that's, everybody's got their viewpoints, and I appreciate everybody that came earlier and talked. I'm not by any means saying that I don't hear that, because I do. I feel it personally.
If you hear it, are you willing to compromise in order to act on what you hear?
But I've also heard several people since our last meeting that have called me in support of it, that said, I'm not coming to the meeting they didn't want to show their face.
Sure.
Which is fine. And there's a lot of people that
There's a lot of people that are like that, yeah.
So yeah, I appreciate people that have come, but I also appreciate people that have reached out and said, hey, we need, my kids back here, and they're going to start having a family. We want schools. I mean, at the end of the day, from the taxes I pay, I see value with taxes that are here locally. And we can complain about how it's spent all day and all night.
Well, I know, but I mean, and you pay a lot of taxes, but your taxes are going to go down this year, and they went down last year.
But Ian, okay, and so to that point, I get that frustrates me.
But it's true though.
It's true, but farmland and housing is like comparing apples and oranges. They are not taxed the same.
Right. One's income property, and the other is where people have to go to bed at night. I mean,
Well, no, hold up. Farmland is taxed based on the revenue it produces.
Yeah.
Housing is taxed based on value.
Right.
So, to one of the earlier comments, the housing has gone up, and that's, everybody here has seen that as well. But a lot of the houses in Hiawatha's value has also gone up. So that's where you're seeing that tax. And unfortunately, in Hiawatha, we don't have an abundance of houses. To an earlier point that a house was sold and within 3 hours of it being on the market. There's not so my thing is why don't we collectively figure out a way to solve the problem? Because the problem now is taxes are going up.
Mhm.
Well, let's create housing. Let's try to figure out, because if you can create more housing, more jobs, more opportunities, then the tax burden is not going to be solely on just the taxpayer sitting here.
well, that's well and good, but how does that keep us from bleeding the Joe average by another 12% this year? I mean,
Well,
year after year after year.
But that's not you can't just snap your fingers and.
No, we can't snap it, but we can mitigate it by not going to the full 6. And there it is.
Right. But I guess
So like,
But back to the point though, the whole farmland and housing thing,
Mhm.
like when we're comparing those, just FYI, they're two different ways of being taxed.
I know that.
So, well, I know you know that, but the problem is to the average person that's been hearing this the last few or couple years, in their mind, they're thinking, oh, well, the farmers aren't paying a tax. Well, BS, the farmers are paying a lot of the tax in this district.
Sure.
Have they gone down the last 2 years? They have. But since I bought the place where I live in 2001, they have gone up about 4x. So like, I mean, so be careful how that's phrased, because that's a little misleading, but
Well, I mean, in relative terms, 99% of the people are going to have their taxes go up. And there's a few that own enough ag land to offset what their houses went up, or that their taxes will go down, their net tax bill will go down. That's a fact. And that's unfortunate. I mean, what's unfortunate about it is that we can't do anything about that formulation. If everybody's stuff went up 3%, this would be an easy conversation. I mean, or whatever, if it was all uniform.
Yep.
But I mean, it is a tough pill to swallow when 3 of the 4 people that are wanting the higher rate are going to have their total tax bill be net negative, while the vast majority of people are going to see.
So if it was flipped, then
Well, let's visit. I'm not the one advocating for the higher tax.
well, yeah, you are actually, because you're considering either one we're considering is the higher tax.
Oh, I would be glad to go to the revenue neutral one, but I was hoping to compromise and find some middle ground.
No, I know, but to Ronnie's point, yeah, if the assessments were reversed, then I feel like maybe your viewpoint would be different. And that's, to me, I mean, I don't feel like that's probably the right way of looking at it.
I'm not sure what you mean by that, to be honest.
If the farmland assessments were going up and the housing were going down, would you still feel the same way about the mill levy?
I don't know. You'd have to play that out. I mean, it's the least of us are the ones that are going to be getting the highest increase this year. There's no doubt. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm not pushing for the big increase. I think the driving force of trying to keep it down as much as possible, and resist those forces. So I'd like to think that hanging that on any one group is a negative. I'd like to see the same reform that we have that buffers the ag land prices, that keeps it from having drastic swings from year to year in either direction. I'd like to see that done on housing. They tried and failed to do that this last year. So, I mean, to your point,
But we don't have control on that.
No, but if you're going to speculate that if the shoe is on the other foot, that I'd feel different, I don't think any position that I've ever articulated supports that.
Well, it has been that way in the past. Years ago, it was that way all the time.
We were taking increases year after year, and the mill levy never went down from 6.
Yeah. So it wasn't until I was in that we even looked at making an adjustment to compensate for what valuation prices were doing. We never did that until, I mean, for better or worse, obviously worse, but until I was president. We never really changed that to my recollection. And I was naive enough to go that, okay, well, it's the same mill levy. The overall valuation in the district went up 5%, and not realizing for a number of years, probably 7 years of my first 7 years, that you actually can't look at it as one homogeneous mass, that these all change. So trying to mitigate the impact that it has on any of our tax groups was why we ended up with that a couple. So, I just hope, I mean, obviously it's going to be split again. I hope that somebody changes their opinion in here and says that we can take some steps that without hurting the school, that we can slow play the increase a little bit more. But I mean, at this point, we're going round and round. I don't know what else there is, but I really am troubled by the indifference to 25% in 2 years, to 30% in 2 years. I just think we have to I think we have to, it's not a comfortable spot for the school. It's certainly not a comfortable spot for our patrons. But I hope that we try to balance it out, like Mitch said quite a little while ago, and take that middle road. I talked so long, I'm logged out.
Any more discussion? Like, entertain a motion.
Mitch, you made a proposal. Do you want to make a motion? Sure.
I move that we accept our superintendent's alternate budget plan at 49.343. Is that right? Or do you want me to say
I
that?
would rephrase that, say adoption of the, no, I'm just rephrasing this so it's proper.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Two things. I would say in consideration of the needs assessment, in consideration of the needs assessment, that you would move to accept the budget as presented with the exception in capital outlay being at, what was that? Or just say the overall mill levies of 49 point, as opposed to, that's what your motion would be. And somebody's got a different motion, say the same thing, whatever you do, you need to put in that little clause about in consideration of the needs assessment.
I'll do my best. So in consideration of the needs, I move to, with exception of, how was that? Yeah.
I would just say as presented with the exception of the mill rate being at 49.343.
Right.
Second. So moved in second to accept the alternate consideration of the needs at the mill levy at 49.343. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All in favor say nay. Nay. Motion passed 4-3. Superintendent report.
Get to that, make yourself up. There we go. I'm going to ask Tim to jump in here for a little bit and go over just latest activity, a few things that have come up that you'll want to be a little bit aware of. And Tim, if you'll come on up there and do that.
Yep, sure. First off, I just want to let everybody know I've started receiving some bids for snow removal contracts for this year. I have also reached out looking for contracts, or not contract, but a bid from our one that was last year. I haven't received that yet. So once I get that, I'll be next meeting. I'll present those to you guys. Update also on the storage trailer over at the elementary school. It is completely down. Stuff is all hauled away. We do have some utilities that have to be taken care of yet. It's underground. We'll get that removed and then we'll plant that to grass. Hopefully blend in nice.
Tim, as far as
Yeah.
the snow removal is concerned, do you foresee that being essentially the same as far as what the district handles itself versus what is contracted for? Has anything in that equation changed? I mean, obviously the snow itself is what it is, but
Right.
as far as the scenarios in which the district would handle it versus the scenarios in which a contracted third party would handle it, is it all essentially the same? You would do the same type of work you did last year?
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay.
They presented to me in the first bid,
Mhm.
yes, that they would take care of it after, like, I think it was 2 inches above.
That's what, okay.
Yeah, 2 inches below.
Mhm.
All
And
of it.
even, and if that's the case, so let's say we get a 6-inch snow, is there still some of the work that is left to the district? I mean, they do
Yes.
the lots, but as far as
We do
sidewalk.
most of the sidewalk and we do the spraying, any salting that we needed to do. We've done that in the past. Yes.
Okay.
So
And-
yeah, we would continue to do that.
And within your plan, just this is kind of peripheral, but within your plan is it noted where new concrete is so that it doesn't get salted?
We haven't noted it yet, but I will do so.
Okay.
Good change.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you, Mark. Thank you. Down at the very bottom of the high school parking, we have that drainage area with clean out. City came out and attempted to clean that and get that open. They could not get that to start draining into the sewer drain. So I talked with the original installer and we decided that we were going to dig it back up. We did. The very bottom of that clean out had been broken. So through discussion, we decided that putting 2 clean outs in there this time, one running to the west and one back towards the school. That way they could clean from both directions without hitting that bottom with the water jet. So we went ahead and did that. And then they encased that in concrete, set it in concrete in the bottom so that that can't be forced through as easily as it was last time.
Is that a perforated pipe?
It's perforated pipe going from the connection that we just put on up to the school. It's perforated pipe. We use regular 4-inch PVC.
And that goes into the storm sewer?
Which goes into the storm sewer.
Okay, so there wasn't any need to put gravel around it or anything. It wasn't because of dirt infiltration. It was just because of the breakage.
At that spot, they broke through and was pulling clay out.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think now as far as gravel, they did put gravel down, then concrete underneath.
Okay.
Right at the base
Well,
of it.
it's kind of filter medium around the perforation.
Yeah.
That's not that part of it.
No, that was further.
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 Which way? Towards the school.
Towards the school. Yep. So in the future, we should have less of a problem with that, with the way that they set the clean out, one going one direction and the other, and we can clean both directions. Let's see. Everybody remembers the big hole down at the bus barn, right? I just received late last month our agreement that we were accepted into the KEAMS program, the Kansas Environmental Information Management Systems. So basically, they would come in. They're coming in to monitor that for another year. They're going to come in and drill holes in and put water monitoring wells. And every quarter, then they'll come in and check that and see if there's any additional leaching or contamination into the water, groundwater. So once the wells are installed, like I say, they'll come every quarter, and then after the year of monitoring the project, the manager will analyze the data collected and see if the site can be closed, or if they need to do additional monitoring or possibly even additional digging. So,
And so who was this?
that's KDHD, the monitors. And so we pay into the trust fund to get into it. I think it's a $4,000 charge to get into the trust fund. That's basically like a deductible payment. So any work of installing these wells and any additional digging is paid for through the trust fund.
And I'm sorry, did you say that there is a sunset on that? Or does it continue ad infinitum they continue to monitor for?
The sunset is after the year is up. They will make a determination whether it will continue.
Oh, okay.
It's not a board.
Okay.
Okay.
So it's not like once they've determined nothing's there, it just continues. Yeah, I gotcha.
So if they're finding that there's nothing there and the contamination is taken care of, then they'll
That's
close.
the end of the process. Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
it's the way I understand it. So that project's still ongoing. Hopefully not a swimming pool again.
Do we pay into that every year, or is that?
No.
That was that one-time fee.
One-time
when they
fee.
did that. When we started that project, when we found out it was contaminated. Right?
Yeah. Moving on, yeah, I got a couple more things, sorry, I'm taking up time. You mentioned it earlier, football field. The LED lights were replaced on Wednesday prior to the games. I want to, commend Jeff and Chris, Jeff May and Chris Gray. They spent a lot of time making sure that field was painted up really nice. I think they did a good job.
Yeah.
Had some custodians that went through and did some work on, making sure it was weed eated well and weeds were taken care of. So commend all of them for the work that they put into that. I think it did look nice.
It showed, and there was a lot of comments.
Yeah.
Good. Glad to hear that.
Goalposts look good. Benches look great.
Last thing, just something informational wise that I've just started working on. The nature trail behind the high school. I've had some people request that we do some cleanup in there. When I've got in there and doing some investigating, it is like overgrown majorly.
I think Jim Ruby used to do that.
Yeah. I spoke with Patrick Sheldon, fire chief, and they would like to maybe set up and do a controlled burn that they will take care of, cover paying for it and all that for training purposes. And that may be maybe October-ish. It does have to be approved through the city commission because it is inside the city limits. But from talking to him the other day, he will pretty much take care of that process. I'll call him back and verify that for sure. And then I got some recommendations. Otherwise, it'll probably next spring we may want to pay to come through and do some cutting of this product or the trees that are invasive that don't get burned out and pay them, and then maybe burn again. So, and then usually then they say rotate about every 3 to 4 years to burn that out.
So that walking trail back there is basically our responsibility.
It's a red hot walking trail.
On that note, what do you know off the top of your head where our responsibility for maintenance around the walking trail is and where the city's is, as far as mowing and just general upkeep? Because it's an easement through school property,
Right.
the portion that obviously
I know. We have maintained most of the mowing right around the walking trail on our property.
Yeah.
As far as like tree cutting and stuff like that, the city has said that that's their responsibility,
Okay.
that they would take care of cutting trees back from the walking trail.
Okay.
But that's
Some trees down over on the south side towards Maple Heights too that they take care of.
yeah, I think they cleaned out a pretty good section there on the,
So is it just kind of an informal handshake agreement, understanding?
from what I understand.
Yeah.
As I had called earlier and talked to city
Brad?
and he said that they would take care of doing that part of the trees and stuff. So.
Not that there's an issue, I just was kind of.
No, I actually had a patron that was walking the trail stop me and talk to me about it. So I investigated that. Brad said they'd take care of it.
Okay.
Can I suggest a follow-up email of, dear sir, thank you for the conversation. Can you please confirm that you will be taking care of this going forward?
I can do that.
That'd be great. Let me have it in writing.
That's all I had.
Thank
you. Thank you.
We've got Ms. Darrenfield back there. She was available for a second. I'm going to ask her to give you a quick rundown on the start of the school year at the elementary. Our other two principals have obligations tonight. We'll try to catch them in October. So just going to have Danielle fill you on how the year started.
I just have a quick update. We started our year very strong and positive. I feel like from the start, our teachers worked really hard to get their classrooms ready. They've worked hard to build their classroom communities, and they set the tone for success from day one. Our students, as well as our teachers, have returned eager, ready to go. They have jumped right back into routine and structure. I mean, you would know there was summer, but not too much of a break there. Our staff has really jumped into our new EL resource that we've adopted for ELA. We've also, this is year 3 of really capturing kids' hearts throughout the entire building. So they've really been working to build their social contracts in their classroom and those positive relationships with their students. This week, we will finish up our testing for our beginning of year testing, and we will start our WIN groups kind of the end of this week and into next week. So we'll start that intervention piece for our students. So it's been positive and encouraging start to the school year so far.
All right. Any questions for?
I have a question for you on the headcount. Does that include pre-K on this one? That include pre-K or is that just K through 4?
347,
I think that does.
I think it does.
That includes the
I think so. 348.
It wouldn't, just, it's a quick math, there's no way it would.
Yeah, no.
So the ones at the church, include those?
No.
No.
Daniel, is that
Hmm.
is that up or down from last year?
That's down just a little bit.
Just a little, pretty flat.
Mhm.
Okay.
We have this is a record small kindergarten group.
Yes.
Don't breathe, don't sit back, because next year is a record breaking kindergarten
Yes.
Oh,
in the other direction.
okay.
There is, I don't understand it, so, yeah, so we've got,
So they all have to go to first grade because we won't be able to accommodate them in kindergarten.
No, no.
uh,
We're going to kinder.
I'd like to think that they're getting a lot closer attention in this small group.
Yes.
Sure.
So,
And with that, our WIN groups are going to look a lot different in kindergarten this year because they are so small. So we can really do targeted intervention with those kiddos.
Great.
So.
Thank you.
yeah, so head count, elementary 347, middle school 250, high school 251, total 848. So we're down a little bit. I'd say the biggest part of that is right in that kindergarten section. So,
30-ish, is that right?
what is that number again, Danielle, kindergarten?
Around 40,
Yeah.
40, maybe 39.
But you look at how do you right size a staff in that situation? Well, you don't when you know that next year you turn around and you're going to have that same problem. Because, and those volatile numbers really make it hard to right size your staff. I mean, they really do, because it doesn't shown to be very successful to have one of those teachers who bounces around from grade to grade. It doesn't tend to bear out very well. They don't stick around very long, to be honest. So we're kind of taking it on the chin in kindergarten this year, but at the same point in time, we're getting really close attention, which is, if that's going to happen somewhere, that's where we want that to be. You'll have a whole different discussion next year. So, so total 848. So that's where we set as of the, so September 20, it'd be the 21st, I think this year would be the head count day. That's when the numbers come to play, and that's what we base everything on. So that's coming up. So that's the 66 coming up. We've got our, we always host a regional county, it's called a Counting Kids Workshop at KSDE, helping school officials understand how to get their head counts correct and how to get all their weightings correct and to fill out the superintendent organization 66 report. So we'll have a bunch of people over there learning that day, myself included. So speaking of people learning, you heard Danielle talk about capturing kids' hearts. So that's in its third year at the elementary. It's in its first year. It's in its infancy. It hasn't really even started yet in the middle school and the high school. So we're working with setting up training, the process champions training, and then what's the other one called, Danielle? I guess just the regular training for people being trained in this age. Yeah. And remember, we changed that calendar to get those 2 days, Monday and Tuesday before Thanksgiving. That's it right there. So anyway, that is coming. It is I think it's a great program. I'd like to see how it's going to do our other two programs, what kind of changes it can help us with. So I don't really have a lot else.
Lonnie, I got a kind of dumb question. Your head count day, does that, like if you have, say you got a bunch of kids sick, can you still count those kids, or or is it like
if they were, okay, let's say they're not there on that day. Were they there a certain number of days before and a certain number of days after, then you're okay.
Okay, so as long as they have like a track record of being.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, let's say a kid shows up here on the 21st. Well, then he's got to, or on that count day, but he's got to be there a certain number of days after. Yeah, because there were all kinds of shenanigans that got pulled in other places. I'm sure where we brought, but I heard stories about, oh yeah, I think the homeschool kids come, hey, we'll give you free books today. And then they're gone the next day, but they were there. Yeah, that's this old stories I used to hear. Things have been changed. I'm sure the accounting regulations changed to adjust to that phenomenon that may have been occurring.
It always sounds like it's never going to err in your favor, but it could err against you. Is it fairly?
Sure.
Do you think it's fairly accurate
It can be. You can also get, in our situation, it probably is, we don't have a lot of swaying, but in other districts where you have maybe a big number that moves in after the 20th, you didn't get any funding for it.
Right.
I don't think it's as much. I think the smaller you are, but then again, the weight is more, if you think about it that way, and what each of those students are going to mean into your budget. So it just kind of depends.
Well,
They got to set a date.
in our case, in the, you're just anecdotally, do you
We're
feel
pretty
like
close.
it's pretty
Yeah.
good? Okay.
We're pretty close. We're almost always right on per head count. That's not what ever gets us. It's going to be, if there's some changes and things don't come in the way that we think they should, it's really going to be more about career tech ed, free lunch, at risk, all those counts that add to the FTE, make it the weighted FTE, and how those get factored in. That's why it's important for people to fill out free lunch applications. So many times they don't do it, they don't do it, they don't do it, and then they decide in the middle of the year to do it. One, they've lost the opportunity to have that benefit earlier in the year, and two, the schools don't get funded for it. So we do try to really push folks to do those things. We always said,
54%.
what's that?
Are we still hovering around the 54%?
I haven't looked this year at all. It changes. But we always said as a building principal, somewhere there's a school that exists. That all those good students that you lose in the middle of the year went to after the count date, and all the other students came from, and they landed on the, it just sometimes feels that way, if that makes sense.
Do you feel like the people who need to sign up for the free introduced by and large do, or do we have a large deficit?
So there's always a deficit. The higher the age group, the more likely that they don't fill it out.
Is there anything that we can do? I mean, I know you guys are already tackling that. Is there anything that a board could do to help with that process?
Well, I'm not sure what it'd be. What we really go looking for is, are there any families who have kids in the upper levels who are not filled out for that? And if we try to attack, that's our earliest indicator. Who's dropped off and why. So we definitely try to get that. That's a really important thing to do. So I know Chelsea does a pretty good job of getting those. She's been doing that part for a few years.
And could we send out a reminder? I mean, we're a month into school already, just a reminder to parents that if you have.
I'll have to see what we need to do. I'll visit with Chelsea and see if we push that out again. If we have it out to everybody, it won't do any good if it looks like that we actually have had everybody. That's what I don't know. So, doesn't hurt. Okay, that's all I got for you today.
Special education board.
Sped meets Paris,
Definitely.
same song, different year.
What was the rate of IEPs?
State average is 17% of students. Hiawatha's is 23 and Borton's is 28.
We have
What was the state average?
17% of IEP. For students with IEPs, the state average is 17, Hiawatha is 23, and Borton is 28. Well, on a positive note, Amy again knocked the financial audit out of the park with no deficiencies or findings or areas of risk. She did a phenomenal job, so kudos, Amy. But yeah, paras and to the IEP rate, we keep hearing, and I think we heard it last year, but we've already heard it more. I think this year, the severity of needs is going up every year for the kids under the interlocal. And so that need for paras and paras that do one-on-one is significant. So if anybody's looking for a job, we need paras.
That uptick, and Lonnie, this would be a question for you, I guess. Is that universal, or is that Brown County?
I can't speak for the state. You see what the state average is. So.
Well, the rate of change.
There's only two ways that it happens. It's because you have an increase in population with special needs, or you have an over-identification in the process. You have a system issue that needs to be addressed.
John has said that he's talked to multiple directors and that they're all desperately needing
Okay.
And it's just not pairs, it's speech pass, it's OT,
Oh,
it's PT, it's everything.
I thought you were asking about the identification.
I was, but I mean, that's relevant too. It just, are we on the same, we may be higher than the state, but the average, but are we on the same trend where there's an
All
uptick?
trends are up.
Okay.
All trends are up.
So who makes that decision?
So generally, the way the process works through, for the most part, through the general ed program, student improvement team. Danielle can speak to that too. Her team meets twice a month.
We meet every week.
Oh, you meet every week. The other two school teams meet twice a month, so every 2 weeks. And that's because these kids are new to the system. So if you think that, somebody's identified, it's going to happen earlier. So that includes regular ed and special ed folks and general special ed teachers, school psychologists, counselors, and the first step is to try to create a general education plan. If we can address the issues that way, that's the way to do that.
Mm-hmm.
You monitor that, you take data on that, the team convenes again, it's either working or it's not working, we need to make some modifications, or maybe it's time to look at doing testing for this.
So the changes, the uptick that we've seen here that's driving the higher needs and so forth, are those kids that are coming into our system because they're coming into the school system? Or are they kids that are older that are coming into our school system?
Coming into this. Now, generally, it's just.
They're 5-year-olds. Okay.
Oh, earlier. Yeah, so look at your early childhood special ed pre-K.
Mm-hmm.
They do the child find, and that's how they go out. And so we're talking the age of, really, it's the age of 2 at some point in time. So they're identifying early.
Okay.
And those kids are coming into us at 3 and 4 years old with special ed program.
Just looking at it as opposed to like if we had a whole bunch of middle school kids that we did. Okay. Yeah.
That happens more often than not because somebody's moved into our system.
Mm-hmm.
And they haven't maybe had stable
Right.
Educational.
But we don't see that necessarily at a higher rate than we would expect.
Not new new.
Right.
New to an IEP.
Mm-hmm.
They continue.
Right.
But we do have some kids who come to us in middle school who have not had one. They were not with us before.
Right.
I don't know what that says. Either we've identified it and somebody did not. Maybe they weren't in a place long enough to get that done. A lot of factors. You see a lot more emotional needs than you saw 20 years ago. A lot more of that. A lot more autism, certainly, spectrum disorders.
So in broad categories, emotional needs is one way that you might end up with an IEP. Is there a I don't know if they say a learning disability or okay. So what are the major categories of
LD, learning disabilities by far the largest.
Okay. All right. And then would physical limitations also? Okay.
Can. Certainly can.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Just general info.
Pretty common.
And we just started negotiations with them, so if anybody wants to come Thursday morning at 7 a.m., I'll teach you.
Okay.
Yes.
Enough. Jackie.
Oh. Ronnie.
Ronnie, sorry.
Okay, executive session. 15 minutes for executive session, I'm open.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded to go into executive session for 15 minutes, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no, motion passed, 7-0.
Oh, wow. Oh, smart.
While on vacation, finding the Broncos in the truck.
Okay, we were in executive session for 15 minutes, the action call.
I recommend the approval of Joey Simpson as assistant high school football coach for the 25-26 school year.
Second.
Moved in second to approve Joey Simpson as the high school football coach for 25-26 school year. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion passed 7-0.
I move to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Moved in second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion passed 7-0.
Lady, that's good.